Of the show for today, we're talking to Dr. Louis Baldwin from Vanderbilt University and a Martin Luther King scholar who's also talking about the Martin Luther King Memorial dedication that occurred recently in Washington, D.C. and the significance of this event. Dr. Baldwin, you were talking about the image of Dr. King prior to our first commercial break. Let's pick up in that area that you'd like to pursue.
Yeah, I think it's very important to understand that once the decision was made to pursue the completion of this 30-foot sculpture of Dr. King, a Chinese sculptor by the name of Lei, L-E-I, Yixin, Y-I-X-I-N, was chosen really to produce this design of the monument. He is in fact a Chinese sculptor, and I think that speaks to the fact that Dr. King of the global king. You know, there was a lot of controversy about whether or not someone from a different part of the world should be involved in designing this monument.
The civil rights movement.
That's right. The feeling was that someone from America should probably be the designer.
More specifically, all exactly. I would imagine that might have been a consideration.
Exactly, but in the end, of course, this Chinese sculptor was chosen, and he produced this magnificent 30-foot granite sculpture of Dr. King, and it's a very beautiful sculpture, inscribed with 14 quotations from Dr. King's speeches, and also it portrays Dr. King as emerging out of a mountain. As you well know, the inspiration for the design of the monument came from a line in Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, where Dr. King talks about hewing out of the mighty mountain of despair a stone of hope. That was the inspiration for the design of the monument, and the fact that we had a Chinese sculptor, a Chinese artist in charge of producing this monument, I think is very, very important, and it sort of reinforces this idea that I've been talking about, King as a global figure, and not someone who
will not be limited by race.
Exactly, a race or culture or nationality, but an international figure.
Very good. And of course, now the dedication. How did all of that happen? I mean, the whole process.
Yes. Well, initially, we need to keep in mind that the effort to produce a King monument started back in 1996 when Congress gave approval to the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, King's fraternity, to pursue this project. And Congress gave its approval, and since 1996. Alphas have been engaged in a fundraising process. The monument cost is about $120 million. They've raised about $115 million already. But the decision was made to pursue the project after 1996. And of course, as you well know, we got the Chinese sculptor involved in producing the design for the monument. And certainly in 2011, this year, the monument was completed. And the initial ceremony for the dedication of the monument was scheduled for August 28th, 2011.
Now, why was that date significant?
The anniversary of the I Have a Dream speech. Because King gave the I Have a Dream speech on August 28th, 1963. So August 28th, 2011 was set for that date, but Hurricane Irene, as you well know, came, and then the dedication ceremony was delayed until October 16, 2011. And of course, it was held on that day, and there were a number of speakers, not only people like Jesse Jackson and Andrew Young, who worked with Dr. King, but also President Obama, who gave what I consider to be the keynote speech rather, at that dedication ceremony. And of course, King's son, Martin III, and Bernice King, his daughter, also made speeches. And interestingly enough, they not only, I like to see it as a looking back and a looking forward.
All right.
Because if you look at the speeches that were given during the dedication ceremonies, not only by Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and King's daughter, King's son, and President Obama, they were talking about what King meant in the 1950s and 60s in terms of the pursuing of civil rights and that kind of thing. But they also talked about the need to move toward the fulfillment of Dr. King's dream today.
It's an unfinished dream.
It's an unfinished dream, and particularly in terms of economic justice, international peace. I think it was Martin III who said, look, okay, we have not fulfilled the dream in terms of jobs and income and economic justice. There are still class issues that divide Americans. So we have to realize that Dr. King's last crusade before he was assassinated involved fighting for garbage workers, fighting against slum conditions, that he was very much concerned about eliminating the problems of poverty and economic injustice.
And that's a real concern that we have here today, in a real sense. I think that when you look at what's going on in the country today, you find that there's quite a bit of poverty, and there's quite a bit of continuing poverty that we've never seen before, I think,
Absolutely.
Dr. Baldwin, in a real sense, since the beginning of the Great Society.
Absolutely.
You know? And now,
with President Johnson.
That's right. Now,
yeah.
now how would Dr. King's attitude be in reference to what we ought to do in reference to that?
I think Dr. King would say that social protest is still one approach to addressing this kind of issue. I think we expect the federal government to address economic inequities and economic problems, especially given the fact that we have Barack Obama as president, and that he should be, the idea, of course, is that he should be sensitive to the, more sensitive to these problems. But King always said that government action has to be accompanied by social activism on the part of common citizens. That all of us have a role in making the society more economically equitable, okay, so that people will have jobs, health care, a guaranteed income, and that, I think, is the challenge that the speakers at the King dedication ceremony tried to get across. The challenge is that we need to continue to fight for the fulfillment of this dream, not only in terms of economic justice, but in terms of issues of international peace.
Very good. And of course, Dr. Baldwin, let us take this second commercial break, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.